All right, thanks.
Well, a draw at Newcastle last week. What did that performance tell you about where your team are at in terms of how you want them playing?
There's obviously three disappointing factors in three different situations where we stopped ourselves winning 3 points, and that was the penalty miss and 2 penalties given away. So, when we contain a Newcastle side that's third in the league to so few opportunities and so few chances, we really did kick ourselves in the guts by gifting them those penalties. And I think that for me, it was a bitter pill to swallow the next day when we looked at the situation and what we'd done and how much we'd got on the brink of a crucial 3 points with only 2 games left after this one, So I'd have said we were probably 60%, 65% sure we'd stay up if we'd have won that game, and now we've got to go and win at West Ham, where it wouldn't have been essential to win at West Ham, I don't think, if we'd have won last week. I think a point would have been, another great achievement, trying to win but making sure we didn't lose, and then going into the last game. So over that disappointment, just cut out those mistakes to the players. We've all got to, remember that the time is running out and errors will be punished in the Premier League, and we have to limit those errors. So performance to stay the same and commitment to stay the same, and hopefully we can perform at a higher level to try and win the match.
As you say, going there looking to try and win. Depending on other results on Saturday, if they go against you, you're going to have to win. Have your players got what it takes to cope with that pressure?
Well, that's a great question. I think that it is a difficult situation. If you find that the teams down there on the Saturday have picked up 3 points, and it's nearly an almost certainty that you have to get 3 points to stay in the race. So when it comes around and what the situation is when we get to Sunday afternoon, we have to deal with it. We have to accept it, and we have to make it spur us on to the best performance we can give. No matter what goes on Saturday, we have to deliver a 3 point scenario at West Ham to try and save our Premier League status, and handling the pressure that comes with that is a big question of can you. They'd certainly handled that pressure last week, apart from of course, as I said before, apart from the silly errors we gave away and the penalties. But I'm pleased we've had the reaction we've had. When you consider that Newcastle have just battered Brighton 4-1, again gives an indicator of where we've come in a short period of time. I suppose you could say when Manchester City battered Real Madrid, and you looked at what we played there and what we did to try and stay in the game, it shows some good indicators without any points on the board, of course, or out 3 points. But so I think we're moving in the right direction, and the players' confidence should be a little better and deliver that performance to try and win. But the crucial factor will be obviously try to obtain our first clean sheet.
You talked about the penalty miss last weekend. The club put out a statement afterwards because of this abuse that Patrick Bamford had been receiving, the threats to him. Have you had conversations with him this week, and how's his mindset been coming into this weekend?
He's been okay. Obviously extremely upset about the situation, like you mean, and of course, something that is a very, very, very bad taste indeed. I'd like the police to do a lot more, but it appears that when it becomes social media, they rule the world and can say and do what they want, unfortunately, which is why the world's in such a big mess, in it. But he's handled it pretty well. I think the club gave him as much support as he needed, particularly security-wise, and it wasn't just about him; it was about his family. So the best way is to go out on the pitch on Sunday, perform to his highest level, try and score, and it would be even great if he went and scored the winner. So hopefully it's not affected or won't affect his performance.
And in terms of Sunday's game, your former club, what do you make of the job that David Moyes has done in getting them to European final, and do you hope that that maybe factors into his team selection on Sunday?
Well, we probably can normally guess the team that's going to be picked on again on the Sunday we play them, but it's very difficult to pick this one because obviously looking at Brentford last week when they played, he made 9 changes, and of course our preparation is to try as best we can to predict a team and how West Ham play, and do a little bit of practice against that, both offensively and defensively. But we won't really know what team is going to pick till we get the team. Well, it's not a team sheet anymore. Until we get the email on our laptops or on our phones to find out what team is actually picked, and then we might need to have a little chat with the players before they go out. But I think they basically, even though he might change the team, probably play the same way as he normally does. So we could practice that a little bit today and tomorrow before we travel to West Ham. But pleased for him, known him many years, brought him to, or recommended Preston sign him many years ago, and he came down from Scotland and he's had a fantastic career. So glad to see that he's brought so much to West Ham after having a difficult season in the league. Yeah, it'd be good to see him, but hopefully when we have a drink after, it'll us that's got 3 points and not him.
Thanks, Sam. With regards to West Ham, then, what was the best possible result for you than losing or winning last night?
Oh, winning! I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think that means that you know they've got a final to think about, haven't they? Subconsciously, you'll never know whether that may affect the players in terms of when they go out and play. Like, I mean, they'll go out and play and try their best. Subconsciously, they won't want to get injured or suspended. Well, I don't know whether suspensions work in Europe as well as in domestically. I'm not sure about that, but certainly one would have a worry that I wouldn't want to miss a final. So they might be a little more tentative. Who knows? But you know, my job is about my team playing to the best they possibly can play, and whatever team we face against West Ham, that's good enough to try and win the game.
You have had experience, haven't you, with Bowling? Because it was Marseille and Lisbon where you had either a win afterwards or a loss afterwards in the Premier League after a similar situation. So you'll know what areas to exploit in a team that's gone through the same thing that you've gone through. What might they be? Well,
it depends. It's how many players he picks that didn't play. Is the first thing we have to consider, because I think in 9 changes against Brentford, whether he makes similar changes or some changes but not quite as many, we'd have to consider that. So those players will be fit and raring to go if they haven't had an opportunity to play on Thursday night. So, you know, but the rest, if they have played on Thursday night, it doesn't happen until the last 20 minutes before fatigue kicks in. So stay in the game as long as you can. Try and get in front in the game as quick as you can. And then, like I said, if we get our first clean sheet, I think we've a great opportunity of winning.
What are your fitness concerns, Sam, and what are you thinking about
there's only Dallas, Adams, Sinistera. Cooper's back in training, and Rocker's got a patella tendon injury, so not too bad injury front.
Okay, and obviously you're without Junior Firpo. What's your considerations there then, Sam?
Well, we've been talking about that now in terms of who do we fit into that position, or do we perhaps change the system to a different way of playing. So we've got to look at what West Ham did last night and last week at Brentford, and then we've got to look at what players we've got available and pick a system to suit our team that's available and or compete against West Ham.
And finally, Sam, just on the social media thing, has that whole experience galvanised the players even more this week?
I would hope so. I mean, I do fear for our life with, as an old timer now. I fear for our life with social media and what it's bringing to the world. I know there's great stuff about that, but AI. I've just heard about 40,000 jobs going from BT. So what are they going to do? You know what I mean? So the next piece of AI comes in, another 30,000 jobs goes. What are they going to do? So, for me, it's not a great future, the way we're looking at the world and what we're doing with climate change and that. So that's me outside of football talking about the worry for my grandchildren, but that's another matter.
Thank you.
Morning, Sam. Are there advantages, disadvantages in playing after your big rivals down there?
I think one of the biggest researches we did when we played in Europe was the Sunday game after the Thursday night, and how many teams struggled to get a result, and I think that's obviously the case for teams with slightly lesser squads than the big boys. So when a Man City plays the Champions League, who are used to playing in the Champions League and have the squad of 24 international players, it's not as great a concern to them. But when you have a lesser squad, talented but not quite as talented as them, it always became a factor on how the aftermath of a Thursday night game and playing a Sunday in Europa Cup or Europa League, whatever it's called now, was a worry for me as a manager and the concern. So, that the fact that West Ham lost to Brentford will be a concern for David. That's why I don't think he'll make as many changes as he did in the Brentford game, because he'll want to win.
Did you watch West Ham? Were you glued to it? Were you thinking?
I had to flip between Sheffield Wednesday and Peterborough, because my son rang me up and said there's this most bizarre game going on over the other side, like you mean. So, I had to flip between the two, because I had West Ham recorded anyway, so it could go back to that, like you mean. But I was enthralled a bit by what was happening at Sheffield Wednesday, like you mean.
Graeme?
Morning, Sam. What have you made of Jorginho Rudiger in training in 21? Is he one for the future, or could he still make an impact?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I haven't seen enough. I've seen him play twice, and obviously, as a youngster, in the position that we're in here is a next season scenario for him. What is he going to need to do? I mean, he came in January, I think, didn't he? And I think that such a heavy price tag on his shoulders. But I think that when you are young and you come to the Premier League for the first time, you've got to settle in, and next season would be the big test for him, because the whole of the Premier League demands much more than ability to be a Premier League player.
You've spoken about outrunning the opposition. You talked about that for Newcastle. Is it possible to suddenly switch on or turn up the intensity of a team this late in the season?
Yeah, it's easy if you've got your mind set the right way. So you'll run your fastest. If I point a gun at you and I'm going to shoot you, even though you've never run that fast before, or you might just freeze and get shot.
Thanks, Sam.
Okay, do you like that one?
That's great.
Morning, Sam. You talked about Saturday and the results that Everton and Nottingham Forest could get. If they do get the results they need, how will you channel that pressure into what is effectively a cup final at West Ham, do or die?
That's it, do or die, lads. Fight to the end, but fight with the right temperament and the right amount of control, and don't lose control. And certainly don't lose the game plan. I mean, in the games I've looked at, before I got here, it was a loss of control by the team that went a little crazy in terms of just going all out to try and score a goal and end up conceded 2, 3, 4 and 5 goals. So you don't lose control and you stay in the game, or you try and get ahead in the game. And then, of course, when it gets to the latter stages of the game, depending on where we are, is where less risk or more risk comes into play.
Adam Forshaw's been one of the silver linings in your first 2 games, and we were a little bit surprised he didn't start last weekend. You explained that. Is he in a position to start this weekend?
It's just his body, you know, and his career, and the fact that we have to handle with a little bit of care, you know what I mean? And I think that is a vital part of what's going to happen on Sunday. So, and if he can get on the pitch, hopefully he can stay on the pitch for as long as possible, because I see him as a very valuable asset in midfield.
Sam, in terms of addressing those errors that you talked about last week, is it more about showing the lads where they went wrong, or is it about working on the concentration and the mindset?
Well, it's only slight detail. Like, I mean, it's difficult to explain the slight detail, but what the position of your body on the penalty is critical. So it's only from there to there, and the hand doesn't have to go up, and he can just adjust and clear the ball. That's all it is. So you're talking about maybe, what would I talk about now? Because you don't do inches, you lot, now, do you? 8-10 centimetres. He turns his body around, he can move his feet, and he can jump and head the ball away. And it's that simple. And the other one is just, there's no need to tackle in the box. You've got to stay on your feet, you know, because everybody dives over a leg or gets a touch and goes down. Everybody does it, so you don't give them the opportunity. And that, based on the fact we'd given a penalty away against Manchester City, it was just the disappointing fact. The only disappointing thing, and how costly it became, because obviously time's running out and games are running out. So when you're responsible for throwing 2 points away, if the opposition score and they score a great goal and they score from the skill and their ability like Manchester City, you hold your hands up and go, we've done our best to try and stop that, but unfortunately you can't, because they're so good and so skillful, and it's such a great goal and such a great movement. But those were so avoidable for us, which is most disappointing for me. Especially, I mean, it's hard for the centre halves here because it's me, because I'm a centre half. So if there's the hardest position to play at this football club with me, is a centre half, because, you know, I talk about it all the time about how important they are, how they have to keep the back door shut, and how they have to defend correctly, and always be alert to what the opposition's attack are trying to do, and always be one step ahead of them. And that's the essential part of being a centre half. It's not about running out the back and running down the middle because you play out, which is all a load of bollocks today. But, you know, it's about defending and defending properly, because if we had more clean sheets, we'd already be safe.
And as you say, they're only little details, but they're very important.
Don't say I said bollocks, please. Cut that out. Anyway, go on.
Do you think it's the case that these lads haven't been taught that, or just understand?
I think it's pressure.
Yeah.
It is pressure. I mean, you know, we all make mistakes. Like, I mean, we all. But it's how costly are the mistakes. Like, I mean, and there's only one person can make fewer mistakes than your centre halves, and that's your goalkeeper. And that's a fact of life. So you live, as a centre half, you live on the edge all the time. Because if your mistake costs you a goal or costs you some points, so that's why you live on the edge all the time when you're playing in a game. About the, you know, midfielders, centre forwards can make more mistakes and then up there and, like, you know, wait for the next one or whatever it might be. But, you know, centre halves and goalkeepers, full concentration for the whole 90 minutes we play.
You touched on this a little, Sam, but it's tempting to think that because West Ham have got Europe to think about, and because Tottenham, their season is done, that these maybe become bigger opportunities for you? Is that simplistic or is it realistic?
I think we have to try and find out what we're going to do against West Ham. We're going to have to go there and try and test them as early as we can by how we choose to play. Aware of West Ham, yes. Aware of what they might be, yes. But it won't matter. The system won't matter, I pick, unless the players play the best. So that systems are nothing if the players don't play the best. The systems look broken. The coach doesn't know what he's doing. That's what comes out with the spouts of all media, social media, and interviews, and radio, and TV, and all that. Like the manager has he doesn't know what he's doing. Of course he does. It's just the players fail to do it and fail to keep the cool and apply themselves in the correct manner. So, you know, what we have to do is test West Ham to see where they are, see whether there's any legacy from the game on Thursday night, and try and take advantage of that, whether it's in the first 20 minutes, midway, or at the end, when they may tire, if he's picking a similar team to play last night. We just have to make sure that, you know, we're in a position to win it, or we're in a winning position going into the last ebbs of the game.
What are you seeing in the players then? Because this is really severe pressure now.
I think confidence has grown. I think application has been applied. I think that possession could get better. I think we've been so up for it and so frantic to try and do well and close the opposition down and make life difficult that when we've actually won the ball back, we've still been so hyper that we haven't been able to just calm down and control ourselves to play the right ball and the right pass more often. So the difference between those two is something we've talked about being calmer when we're on the ball, and about movement and picking out better passes and retaining possession better. And that will hopefully get us up the pitch to give us more opportunities to score.
Hi Sam. You came in with 4 games, 2 to go, so it's the sharp end now. Have you had time at all to stop and consider whether the club's been a good fit for you? I'm seeing on social media that there's some fans saying that they'd like you to stay even if they got relegated.
I ain't talking about any of that. Just talking about the West Ham game, and the all I can say about the fans is I really appreciated what they did against Newcastle, because they helped the players get to the level they got to. I got behind them all the way through, and they were really tried to stay with us at Manchester City. So hopefully they've seen a bit of a change, and that's why they're getting behind the boys. And then you always appreciate your fans. The last thing you want to hear your fans is being upset about what you're doing on the pitch. But they will always appreciate commitment and desire and effort to try and get what they want to see, and that's obviously the team winning and trying to get 3 points.
Just going to move on to the embargo section, if that's all right. If you can turn cameras off, and Mark, if you can